Hey, what's up, you guys? Hope you guys are doing amazing. I'm Nam Win. I'm your host for StayLifted Podcast. The reason why this podcast started was essentially just to uplift others, and that's the whole meaning behind the brand and the movement. And hopefully, these stories with guests I bring along to the podcast helps uplift you guys to become a better person or better individual throughout life. So, without further ado, I have a special co-host today, the lovely and talented and creative
Caitlin Kelly. Hi everyone. I'm Caitlin, and I am the author of 3 different books, but my most popular book is The Words I Wish I Said, which is currently TikTok viral and consistently TikTok viral, which is crazy.
That's amazing.
It's crazy. Don't have any more words than that. I am also the author of The Words of a Madman and The Perks of Solitude, which is my first and my 3rd book. So, yeah. More coming soon.
Yeah, we'll follow her on her social links. What are they?
c.aitlinkelly is my Instagram, and then ca.aitlin is my TikTok. I don't know how to vocalize that.
Yeah, well, I'll put it in the description and I'll put it in the bio.
It's my name. It's my name, basically. If you search my name, you'll find it.
Yeah, any that you're welcome to share.
I'll just share my poetry story because that's crazy to me still. So I started writing poetry when I was 14, and I, at 16 years old, got a burst of inspiration that I wanted to publish my own book. I saw another girl online that I followed she self-published her own book, and I had no idea how she did it. So I went into months of research on how I could produce my own books and how I could print my own copies and get my own. It was like, when I want to do something, I will find any way to do it, and that's what I will spend my time doing.
Love that.
And so I, at 16 years old, found a place that prints books, and I was working at a bakery at the time, so I saved some money to put into ordering 20 copies so I could give it to friends. And that was The Words of a Madman. And there were no proofread, I didn't proofread it, so it was errors all over the book, and I just gave it to 20 different friends. It had a different cover, the cover printed odd. It was just kind of it was so unprofessional, but it happened, and it was a burst of poetry, and I just did what I wanted to do. And then eventually I found out that I could self-publish on Amazon, so I went off and I did that with The Words of a Madman. At the time that I was doing all of that, I was going through what was happening that I write about in The Words I Wish I Said, which is basically just, young love and heartbreak. And I was still writing poetry after I self-published this. And that book kind of accidentally formed. I don't think I really had intent to make it into a book, just because my poetry never really is intent to be a book. It's always
just to express yourself.
Just to write, and somehow I publish it, and that's what makes it so raw and meaningful to me and to other people, is just the fact that it's purely the heart talking. And so after months of writing my feelings, I decided to release my 2nd book, which is The Words I Wish I Said, which has a lot more deeper themes and a lot more vulnerability in it. I wrote it as if no one would read it, and so that's what a big part of what makes it so successful is the fact that it's just purely raw. There's a whole chapter just about the mental health struggles that I was facing at the time, and I published this on Amazon, but I didn't give it to friends because I was scared of people I know reading it. And then that was kind of it. I published it beginning of my senior year, and then I thought after that, I kind of got discouraged of just people not reading my work. It was kind of just people I know reading my work, which is very vulnerable for someone to have their heart out, and it's just people they know. You kind of feel more judged by the people closest to you and more vulnerable in that way. And so like my grandparents read it, and I was terrified. I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna see that.
What was their response?
My grandfather called my mom and asked if I was okay. So basically the words I Wish I Said and the Words of a Madman were published, and I didn't plan to release my third book. I thought that's what makes the third book very vulnerable, is just the fact that I wrote it for myself and I kept it for myself, and I didn't want to release it for myself. And in like, I don't know when I started doing TikTok. I think it was beginning of COVID. I was like, okay, I'll start posting, like, okay. And I ended up just doing like fun little things, like I started doing TikTok dances, which we won't talk about, but, just like all the TikTok stuff. And I remember I posted a page of my book because I was like, hey, I forgot to write some books. So I posted a page, and my friends were like, can you please like keep posting these pages? Like, I really like just the fact that you do that. And so I kept with my normal content, and then I started posting pages like once in a while.
When you say pages, do you mean pages of the book?
Yeah, like I'd open it and then have like a page.
Oh,
and so, yeah, so I kept doing that, and it wasn't really like my niche on TikTok. I didn't really know what I was doing, honestly.
You just use it for fun.
Yeah, I just kind of like had it as additional, just having a TikTok page and being like, yeah, I do TikTok from time to time. Like, you know, just posting videos. Like, I'm a filmmaker, so it's like, that's what I like. I like just videos.
Yeah.
That type of stuff. So I kept with the posting pages once in a while. And one day I woke up on Valentine's Day this year, actually. I woke up. I was kind of sad. It was Valentine's Day. You know, the vibes. And I had like just written a poem on a live stream the night before, and I read it on TikTok, and I was like, I posted that, and all of a sudden I see like my TikTok blowing up, and it wasn't that poem, but it was a page of my book that started blowing up. I think it's got like 3 million views or something now. It's like crazy. And I got all these like messages saying like, I'm buying your book, and
that's amazing.
Thousands of comments. And I just remember I was like sitting there the whole night watching my name go up in the top of like the poets on Amazon, and like seeing like literally poets that have inspired like all my writing, and like I was just like on the same charts as them. And I think I ended that day at like number 8 in poetry. And then I expected that to be like the top, like that's where I would just be, like I'd be number 8. And I was so like just happy that I made it there. And then one video after another, it just kept going. And like, wow.
This book specifically, when reading it, it was about self-love. But of course, as the title says, The Perks of Solitude, it's, you know, being alone. And I want to elaborate that more with the audience, and maybe you're on why you wrote this book.
Okay, so Perks of Solitude.
You can find it on Amazon, by the way.
After I wrote my second book, I was not in a good place. You can tell from this second book. Not happy. And I wrote this poem for myself. It's not in that book. It's not in any book, actually. It probably won't ever be in a book. But I wrote this poem for myself, and it was a list of the perks of solitude, which is the perks of being alone. And it was kind of like just a stupid thing of like, oh, you can listen to whatever music you want. Like, you don't have to like think about the people that are around you, and you can listen. You can like do whatever you want. You can kind of just let your mind like be at ease and not really. It was just kind of, that was a theme of this poem. And eventually, when I got to writing my new poetry, I noticed that that was a main theme in my new poetry. And that book, there are like mentions of other people. Like, we exist being social creatures. Like, there are going to be other people that come in and out. But that book was like a collection of my life throughout 3 years. And in those 3 years, I think I grew so much as a person in terms of self-love. Like, I think I realized after my second book that I need to love myself, because I feel like as a teenager, you're constantly like looking and reaching for someone else, and it's more of a way to distract yourself from yourself.
Yeah. I would completely agree with that. And hopefully this ties back to my brand, actually, because why I started my brand was all about self-love and finding the love within. So just looking within, and I noticed that is a common thing in society where not many people like to look within. It's very dark and very hard to look at yourself and, without looking at others, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, I think even spending time with people, we sometimes lose ourselves and forget who we are. And sometimes we have to take that time away to actually look within.
If you're in a process of self-love and it's not uncomfortable, then you're not doing it right.
Yeah. Exactly. and even I think one thing is like self-love is like a daily thing. It's an everyday thing. You have to always work on yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely like something to overcome, because I feel like when you get into your like 20s, I'm not quite in my 20s yet, but like when you get into that stage of life, like past 18, where you're like not with your parents and you're kind of more on your own, you don't really have someone to tell you that you're doing everything right, or if you're telling you that you're doing everything wrong. Or social media can tell you that, but that's extremely toxic mindset. Yeah. I feel like you need to be the person that's supporting yourself, because if you have someone that's there supporting you all the time, you're going to rely on that person, and you're not going to be able to fully grow as an individual.
I completely agree. Randomly just opened this page up, and it's on page 80 of Caitlin Kelly, The Perks of Solitude. So I guess maybe read this passage and tell us about it.
Okay. It's called 2020. I read it in 2020. Yep. It says, I feel like I'm trapped in a cloud with all its condensation residing into my tear ducts. Everything seems to be foggy around me, but I know as soon as the fog clears up, I'm going to fall through the sky once again. The landing gets worse every time. The recovery gets harder. Sad, and I was depressed, and it was kind of the point of like, it's that point of self-love. It's like, at the end, it's like, I don't know if I'm ready to fall and pick myself back up, or if I want to be like in this state of like just depression all the time. Like, I feel like once you're out of that state, you have to really like work on yourself, and feel like, I don't know how to explain this, but like when you're going through it, you can put your foot down and say, okay, I'm done feeling this way. And then like work on yourself and start to do things that make you feel the way that you want to, and like make you happier. You can work on, if you know yourself, you're able to work on yourself that way. And I think that poem kind of was the moment where I was like, do I want to keep feeling shitty all the time, or do I want to actually take the step and work on making myself better? And I was like, I need to work on making myself better, because in the long run.
Where would you say you are at in life now? Have you grown since writing this?
I have grown so much. I'm a completely different person from when I started. I started in senior year of high school, which was like after I published The Words I Wish I Said when I started this book. And I am like, well, that was 17-year-old me, and so 19. But I have like, I don't think I ever expected myself to be at this stage of life where I'm able to look in the mirror and not hate what I see, and I'm able to actually like have hobbies that hold myself together and be able to hang out with myself alone. I live alone, so that's a huge accomplishment for myself. Like, just amazing. Being able to live and be self-sufficient and not like cry every second. That's a big one. I like have dance parties by myself, my cat.
That's awesome.
It's like
you gotta do that sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm living close enough to LA where I feel like I'm literally like the main character of a movie. Main character moments. Like, I think as a teenager, I like romanticized my life a lot, and I was like, yeah. And then kind of in college, I was like, this kind of sucks. And I stopped romanticizing it because I was like, oh, I'm too mature to like do that. And now I think it's like, no, you have more fun romanticizing it from your own point of view, where you're like, I climbed the top of a mountain today, like no one saw, but I will remember that moment for like the rest of my life, because that was the moment where I felt like I had full freedom. It's not because anybody else was there to experience that with me. It's just completely pure of self-love, pure of like enjoying your own company. That's a huge section. It's kind of scattered.
Yeah, it's scattered. It's not a section. My bad about that.
It is something that I did have to heal from, so I did want to include it in this book.
Yeah, we're not going to go into detail about what happened, but we want to go into detail about how you overcame it. And this is a great message to everyone, to anyone that's dealing with anything that has been traumatic or maybe a similar instance.
So this is actually a deep story. But the incident happened in college, so that was just like a thing. And I think anytime something bad happens to someone, they try to overlook it. They don't want to like face it because it's scary to face things, especially that traumatic thing. And so I kind of was like, oh, it's college, just go off the rails. And that is actually a symptom of PTSD. It's like trauma survivors will just like completely like go off the rails for themselves. And I think what that does is that just delays the healing and acts as a form of distraction, which it did for me at the time. But I think I never actually healed from it, even though I said I did, until about a year later when we were in COVID. And I realized it's like what I say like before, is it was that moment where you decide whether or not you want to be stuck in the fog or you want to be able to fall and pick yourself back up. And I think that is a huge thing when it comes to trauma, is just you can keep distracting yourself, but you're going to have to do the healing at some point, or else you're just not going to be okay. And so I was in therapy, but I kind of like kept dodging questions and all that, all the silly little stuff. But in COVID, it really taught me to, like, being alone with your own thoughts is a very scary thing, but it's something that's necessary. As you said, you can't keep running from everything that's in your head, because you're going to have to face it eventually. And in the long run, it's definitely worth it. It's not great to constantly have a panic attack every day. So I think I did the necessary healing. I was able to somewhat process it, and definitely a lot of writing. Writing is a huge healing process for me. But it helped me reach self-love in the way of just like, there is that initiative to just blame yourself. But I think after I healed from that, I stopped blaming myself. I'm actually able to like say it happened. Maybe not like what happened, but just say that it is something that I faced and I overcame, and it will be a part of me, but it's not
the end of
it's not the end of me. Yeah. I will not go down that easily.
Yeah, it's just one chapter of your life that has happened, but we all have different chapters in our life and different traumas, different incidents, different experiences, of course. We're all different, but we all still have that same feeling, right? Of accepting what has happened and trying to overcome it.
You can't change the past, but you can work on the present to be able to change the future.
Exactly. Wow. Poetic as usual. And, that I couldn't say any better. So we're going to move to our last segment of the day. And since you're a poet, I figured why not showcase one of my poetry. And then also, she will also showcase one of her unseen poetry. You guys gotta stay tuned for this. This isn't, I would say, the best poetry. This is something I wrote recently. Her eyes are as deep as the ocean waves. During each gaze, I lose myself. She is full of hope, but filled with trauma. Each breeze pushes the waves closer. She has loved and been disappointed. But each seed she plants, she sees the growth. Through it all, she stands tall. Oh, Mother Nature, I love you as deep as the ocean waves. That's it.
Damn, that was good. Deep. Good.
Thank you. I don't know if she's
no, I'm being genuine. Like, that was good.
Now it's Caitlin's turn to read her poem. This is something that hasn't been seen to the public yet. Could be in a future book, so definitely check it out.
This is a poem called Losing Game. You told me I was a losing game. That's the last thing that you said as I drove away. I drove off with my broken pieces flooding out of my tear ducts. Why can't I just be good enough? Perfection doesn't exist if you cannot accept the rough edges. The harsh waters of my mind have become a tsunami with your absence. I can never make the good things last. You told me that I was a losing game, so I took my torn pieces and I ran away. The best thing that I know how to do is fleeing from you. Deja vu. I love the way that you're breaking my heart. I knew it would end like this from the start. Maybe it was our fading flame when you said that I was really.
Wow. If I could snap, I would snap right now, but I can't.
You gotta do it.
So I'm gonna do this. There you go. That's my snap. That's Caitlin's.
I got 2 hands, one for each.
Yeah. Oh, that's that poem in itself is something that I think is super relatable to so many people. Like not feeling good enough for that person.
Not feeling good enough for someone always wanting you to be more than you are, but you need to set boundaries before you start to give every part of yourself away to someone.
Yeah.
That was so deep.
That was super deep. That was so deep. But not only that, it was like someone that, let's say, showing love to you should love every aspect of you, even if it's not who or what they think love should be. Like, we had this discussion off camera about the movie 500 Days of Summer and how the main character in that movie, he was in love with Summer, but was he really in love with Summer? He was more in love with the idea of who she was, of who he thinks she should be.
Mm-hmm. Definitely more of the idea of someone than actually who they are. And that's why, like, once the spark fades away, you start to see someone's true colors, and then it's at that point not love. And that's kind of how 500 Days of Summer was too. I'm not going to get into a discussion of this because that'd be a very long discussion of that movie. But yeah, just basically like once if someone's in love with you, they should be in love with every aspect of you. And if you can't be enough one day, they should be able to fill the empty gaps and make it enough, because it's a partnership, not a...
Exactly. That's how a relationship should be. It should be a union. It's a union. That's how I would describe it.
Feels like a therapy session.
It is, but that's
healing right now.
Yeah, hopefully you feel very good.
Or what others should expect from you.
Definitely, I am still living life, the human experience, which means I'm producing a lot of poetry right now. And you will definitely not see me stop writing. There will be many, many books throughout my life and probably won't ever stop. So stay tuned for more words from me.
It's beautiful.
More to say, maybe trashing on people in poetry, we don't know. Always good shade, but yeah, that's how that's gonna go. Continue writing, continue creating. A lot of maybe films you'll see in the future.
Amazing.
More photos. Keep up with me on Instagram.
Definitely. We made this podcast with our talented poet and artist, creative mind.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for coming on, and we appreciate you.
If you ever want me in the future, I shall appear.
We will definitely have more podcasts with you in the future, and thank you guys. Hope you guys appreciate
Always stay lifted.